Hi everybody, Sandra here from Createinspain, and I know that a lot of you probably won't ever actually make this project, but I thought you might like to see it being made. But it's great fun, and if you want something that's going to have a real wow factor, this is pretty good. Now, I cannot take credit for designing it. The designers are Minya and Somimachi. Forgive my pronunciation because I don't know how it's pronounced. And it's from the Canon Creative Park. Now, the Canon Creative Park is a site run by Canon, which is dedicated to craft ideas which are printed and cut out and all sorts of nice things on there. And this is a three-dimensional flower shop which looks absolutely stunning in the photographs. I've already done the bakery and I really loved that one. This is made in a very similar way, so I'm hoping that this will be easier for me to do. I already have the 14 pages cut out after being printed. I made an SVG file and cut it with my cutter, and yeah, I'm ready to go. Now, a couple of things which you may want to think about. I use an empty biro in this particular case for scoring because it's got a stronger point than my usual dotting tool. So it's got a finer point, but it's still not harsh enough to go through the card unless I really press too hard. On my worktop here, I've got my usual glass worktop saver, but I have a black silicone mat. That helps with the scoring because it gives you something to score into. I have a pair of small scissors to hand just in case I need it, a bone folder, a dotting tool in case I need it, though I'm not sure what I would need it for, and I've got some glue. Now, this is the same glue that I used for doing the bakery, and I found it very, very good. It does grab it pretty fast and it hasn't come apart on me. So yeah, I quite like this. It's also one that you actually sort of just put upside down in the container to hold it while it's in use. So it's quite convenient. Not sponsored, I bought it myself. I'll put an Amazon link on it in case you want to get any of that. A rolling ruler. Now, I've had this for quite some time. What happens with a rolling ruler is that you set it to a straight line. So, for example, and then just with a finger you can roll it up and down and your lines will be nicely aligned when you do your next one. It's just a handy thing to have if you've got to do consecutive parallel lines, which you do have to score on this. Not absolutely essential, but just a handy thing to have. So I've got the main pieces that I'm starting off with here. The back of the shop, we have a sort of window area which forms one side, and we have the other side which is a solid wall. Now, this is deceptive because you have these two things and you think, oh, it's got two backs, but this is the decor panel for the inside. This is the actual back of the shop, and that is framing the back of the window. So eventually this will go in here with the sides on, and that will be the actual back. Okay, so this is a decorative piece to put inside. So the first thing I have to do is to make up these pieces. Where you have the two green dots here is the only valley fold in it. Now, a valley fold is a fold that goes up like that rather than a mountain one which goes like that. Valley folds are indicated by a longer dashed line and a dot. That's where the water flows, okay? And a mountain fold is indicated by dots, as in rain coming down from the heavens. That might enable you to remember which one is what. Now, I've already scored these, so I can quite happily do my folding. So that is the valley one, and all the other ones are mountain folds. And once you've scored them, you find the actual folding part of it is relatively easy, just like it would be if you were making a card. So what is actually going to happen is that these folds, and I've got one missed out there. Hang on, let's do my little fold. There we go. This piece goes to that crease line there. It gets stuck down and you end up with, once it's actually pressed out, you end up with this kind of square pillar on one side. It's very, very easy to do. It looks like it could be complicated, but it isn't. And that's why you have the valley fold there, because those two dots get joined together and that actually makes it work. So the first thing you actually need to do is put some glue down between those two green dots and spread it over there and then fold it shut so that it closes. And just fold it up over. Whoops. Come on, fold back over. There we go. And you can press that down and just make sure that it's well stuck before you do the rest, okay? Because it needs to be well stuck down. And then it folds back on itself and that gets glued and you end up with your pillar. Go where you're supposed to, that's it. Okay, so that sticks down and we have our square tube basically on one side. Now the other side of it is folded in exactly the same way, the difference being that you have windows in. Now I created the SVG, and so when I cut it out, I actually cut out this third piece here, which if you look at the actual drawing where the cut lines are, it doesn't give you the cut lines of that because it's telling you to fold it first and then cut through the hole. Well, I'm lousy at cutting with scissors and scalpels and etc. So that is about the last thing that I want to do. But what I have discovered is that I obviously forgot to put a little cut line at the top there. But since it's only a straight line, I can get a pair of scissors and I can cut that relatively easily. Don't know why I forgot it there, but it's probably fun to put it in and then accidentally remove the line. So there we go. That's out of there. So I'm going to fold this one up in the same way. So we have our valley fold, which is that first one, where the two green dots are. And all the others are folded in the opposite direction. So I'm going to use my bone folder on that one. You have to be careful because if you've already cut, as I have, the window out of it, you don't have any great strength in that, which is probably why they didn't advise cutting it beforehand. But I did it because I am so bad at manually cutting that I didn't want to risk doing it once it was glued together. That is definitely not my strong point. Now if you have difficulty folding these really sort of more delicate areas, then I suggest you put a ruler up against it and do it that way because it makes it easier and you're less likely to make a mess of it. This is where I find out if I got my lines well and truly lined up. I didn't get them quite lined up, but I'm not about to worry about it. There's a tiny bit of overlap there. I'm not that bothered, okay? I'm not that fussed. Now if you want to, of course, you could put some acetate in here, so I might actually do that. So I completed these two panels and I did actually put some acetate in this side. So from the back, that's what it looks like. They are just joined onto the back panel and then this will come around to form the front and this is the other side wall. Don't worry that this is a little bit loose and floppy at the moment. Believe me, it will stiffen up when the rest of it is constructed. The next piece to go on is the base. I'm going to put the glue on here. And line that up. It's pretty simple. So we have a little table. It's just a box form, and that is going to go in after the back has been put on. So I just need to glue the back in place, and then I can put that table in place, and that will help to give it a little more stability as well. To put this table in place, this opening here needs to go on the inside there. So this dot here goes to that dot there, gets glued on there, and then it gets wrapped around and glued on there. That's fine. Use a bone folder. I've put some glue on the flap here, and this one has to be glued upright first. So that just goes up there, and make sure that is on properly. Okay. Now this rolls to the inside like so. Flatten it out, and then you apply the glue here, and then you can pop it down, and that will be all fixed. And stability, put a touch more glue under that edge there. There we go. Not too much, just enough to make sure it's well and truly stuck down. And so then roll that to the back, goes under the edge of that little post. And that goes like that. There we go. So it's actually quite sturdy once that's done, because you've got a lot of support with that corner piece. We have a little florist sign, which I think is quite cute. I did have to tidy up the cut on there that I made with my little pair of scissors, but not too much. Most of it was done quite nicely, so I didn't have too much tidying up to do, thankfully. The roof is constructed with the decor pieces put on before you actually put the edges of the roof together, and that's because it is easier to apply these when they're on a flat surface rather than when it's made up into the box shape. So I cut these as an SVG instead of folding them and then cutting them together, so I've stuck the backs on, as it were, for these pieces, and now I can just put some glue on the tabs and close it up. Nice easy job, and that'll be the roof done. Because I cut a piece off of this sign, which I shouldn't have, I've just taken a tiny little slither of black card, and I've applied some glue to it and just stuck it on like that, and I'll leave it to dry. Yeah, I just put some very small pieces, slithers of double-sided foam tape, and it's a very thin foam tape that I've got on the sides, a little bit on there, and actually no, I didn't put any on the front there, but I put a couple of pieces on the back. So that's given it a lot more stability than it otherwise had, and of course it stops the roof from falling off completely, which would be a bit of a pain. But so far that's looking really, really nice. I can put my florist sign up. It's so sweet. There we go. This next piece is a plant stand, and if you're cutting it out by hand, it is done folded. So you fold it over like that and you cut your pieces out. I, of course, did an SVG in all one piece. So you simply put this together. If you've folded it, you don't have to do anything else. Glue it together, and then these areas with the dots get folded to the inside. I need to put some glue on here and get it all glued nicely together. I've got plenty of glue on there that will help to make it quite sturdy and strong. So there we are, that's done. And you do need to make sure that those folds are done before you put it together, because otherwise you won't be able to fold it easily. And I'm going to just press those with my bone folder to give it a really good angle. For gluing these little shelves together, the best thing to do is to put a little dollop of glue on the side of your work surface or wherever, and just use a pin to apply it, and use tweezers to make it shut, because you will not be able to do that otherwise. It's just a little too fiddly and tiny. So here we are, the pot plant stand has been finished. Oh, it's looking pretty good. So I'm pleased with that one. This next bit is a bench, and I've done all my score lines and folds and so on and so forth. Well, done the score lines anyway. First thing is this one has to be glued on to there, like so. So this can be done with the bigger tube, not too much difficulty. I've already folded up the bench seat, because that's just like a box lid again. Very much. Oh, phooey, I put glue where I shouldn't have put it. Bother, 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 bother. Silly me. Never mind. Thankfully, it won't show when it's dried. It dries transparent. Oh dear, what a silly thing to do. It's just so easier to put the glue on the back than it is to put it on the front. Never mind. Never mind. If need be, I can always cut out some little pieces of paper and put them in there as well. So it's not that drastic. So this is pretty obvious what's got to happen. This tab goes round like so. This bit goes around, folding back around on itself to make a kind of roll. And then that bit tucks in there. So I can put some glue on that top bit, fold that around like that. Just hold that in place for a second. It's stuck. A little dab of glue on there, and it just follows the edge of the bench. And once it's stuck in place, these side pieces can be rolled up. So these roll up in exactly the same way. Oops. It would be if I didn't pull it back out. There we go. So I'll probably end up either putting some paper or some vinyl or something like that on those bits there. So the next bit to do is this, which is the legs of the front. Right, now these legs go on the front of this part here. Now we have, or at least we did have, two of these tiny little tabs, but notice they say spare. They know that you're going to lose these before you've even thought about it. So yes, I'm using one of my spares, and all those do is get little amounts of glue put on, and then they just go on the inside there. The very nozzle of the watering can is tiny, absolutely tiny, but you have to fold it in a sort of like a concertina fashion. So half of it gets folded into the centre like that, and then these two flaps open back out again. They don't meet, they're not glued together, they go back out. So when I'm editing, I'll try and zoom in on this so you can actually see it a bit clearer, but there it is. Definitely one of those little bits that's going to get lost if you're not very careful. For the spout of the watering can, you have to glue two pieces together. Do not glue past the tab line at the watering can end. The little triangular thing is going to be where the spout is. These other two bits go inside the can and open out afterwards. So then you put on some glue on both sides of this, and that's where that little spout goes, like that. There we are, we have the watering can spout. The watering can is fairly simple. Once you've done the spout and you put it through the slit, you open up the two wings and then you stick that down. Do make sure that you put it the correct way up, otherwise you'll have a very strange looking watering can. So next I just want to roll this up, and to complete it, it's just a case of wrapping it around like it would be for any other sort of round item. So I'm going to do the top bit, I think, first. I've got one tab of the base done, but I'll do the top one. I think this will be a bit harder, I suspect, to get put in place, maybe. So just pinch that together, and wrap around a bit, whoops, wrap around a bit more. This is definitely going to be a tweezer job. That's better. And then continue wrapping around, need some more glue. Now put it on the back seam. Closes up. There we are. Watering can all done. There's a couple of little pot plants which are very easy to sort out. All you do with these is add a little bit of glue to the tab here, and it's rolled back on itself, and that just goes to the back there so that it has a little stand basically, and it can stand upright. It will be glued in place, so it doesn't make too much difference, but yeah, there's a couple of those. The little ticket signs are very easy to do, fiddly but easy. They roll up in a very similar way to the legs on the bench there. Now these flowers are made to go back to back. So you pick the corresponding flower and you stick them together. There we go. I mean, these designs are very well done because they're designed so that they have backs and fronts on them, so no matter which way you look at it, they'll actually look good. And then what you want to do with these is to wrap them around something so they have a bit of a curve to them. And then they will sit within the pot that is made but they will look rounded, and they have some leaves to go around them as well, which are done in a very similar manner. The foliage around these flowers is done in a very similar way. You put two together, make sure you line up the leaves, and then you just have to fold it over to join. You can bend them over, you can roll them with your fingers or use a dull knife to do it. And then those flowers will go inside and sit in there, and then it has its own little bucket, which again is very easy to make. The bucket is pretty easy to do. I need some more glue. There we go. And you can roll it up. I pre-rolled it over a pen. You roll it up like so, and then do that. That's actually the quickest way, as long as there's enough glue on it, of course, which there may not be in the case of this particular one. I think I need to put some more glue on there. That's relatively easy to do. Just a bit more glue on the tabs. There we are. So with this, roll it and then close up the base. And if you want to, you can tamp it down with the back of a pen. There we are, that bit's done. I just need to put some more glue on my paper. And the handles are simply a piece cut and folded in half lengthways. And a dab of glue on the red dots. So, and make sure that you put a handle with the fold side up to make it look neater, and gets glued down like that. Quite easy to make, and it's very effective. Oops, that one slipped slightly, you can see the dot. I have to remove that a little bit. I need a bit more glue. So I get one that I've already filled. This is one where the tulips and the leaves have been put inside. I think that looks really nice. Don't know how well you can see it, but you have to put a little hook up in the ceiling there. Now it's cut out of paper, it's very, very small, and there is a hanging basket which I've put together, which is this one here, and when it's all dried that will hang on that hook. So it's a sensible idea to make it so that the hook opening faces to the front, so you can get at it a little bit more easily. Either that or put it on before you stick the ceiling on. But yeah, it's on there, I can let it dry, so not a problem. A couple of these gardening sacks, so they've been done. Those were a little bit fiddly, and I don't know quite why they made them as fiddly as they did, but there we go. And we have a little trough with some greenery in it. All this is very easy to put together. And the other thing I've done, which again is very easy, is this table, which is simply just a box shape with a lid put on the top of it. So fiddly because it's very fine where it's folded, but other than that, not difficult. With this particular flower pot, you have to be careful. The leaves are actually folded so that the white side is on the outside, because they go over the pot like that when it's made. Okay, so that is something you need to be aware of. And then the flowers, for example, have this little concertina piece, and you put that on the red dot, and then you put that over the top. Now I think the idea with this is that it's kind of bent a little bit, so they're not completely flat. So it's got a little foot at the base. And then that goes on the base of that. Quite clever. A blob of glue on the base there. And so it sort of ends up with a dimensional looking flower, which is quite clever. I don't have that many more to do. I've already got these little pot plants that I've done. There are these tiny little things here, but I'm not sure I'm going to bother with those. All finished, and I'm really pleased with the result. It's taken a very long time, but I'm pleased with the result. One thing that I didn't do was stand the cat up against the wall because I just didn't think it looked quite right. So I've actually hidden the cat in the shop itself. I ended up putting a piece of foam underneath the stand because I needed it to stay in place and I needed to stick it to the back. But I found that when I did, the front legs were off the floor. So I thought, well, I'll put a little mat in as if it was like a little step or something like that. So I've got around it that way. I've altered where the little flower pots and things were. There were a couple of pots of flowers that I didn't bother to make, but I did make most of it. The only thing I found really quite fiddly to do, and they were far harder than I think they should have been, were these sacks. And I really don't quite understand why they did them the way they did. But I managed to get it all done and I'm really pleased with the result. It's really, really nice. It's gorgeous. There's a little bit of flowery embellishment on that side there. Of course, I put the acetate in so it looks like proper windows. And on the back, you've just got a few little bits and pieces. So yeah, it's really, really nice. Now, I cut this out yesterday. There's 14 sheets of card to be cut. And I cut it yesterday. I think the day before I spent most of the time doing the SVG file. Put it to the cutter yesterday, so that was quite a lot of work yesterday. I started making this at 8:30 this morning. It's now, well, it was 5:15 when I finished today, and I didn't have that long a break for lunch. I only had about a half-hour break for lunch. So it has taken a considerable amount of time, but if you want to do a really nice showpiece thing, then this is really great. Now, the design came from the Canon Creative Park website, and it's on there for free download. And what I've done, I've actually written to Canon and asked them if I can give the cut file, not the images or anything else like that, to see whether I'm actually allowed to give a cut file. And I'll see if I get a result from that. Because if I can give you the cut file, believe me, it saves you an incredible amount of work. There is no way I would have fussy cut all this little lot. It took me long enough as it was, but I wouldn't have fussy cut the whole lot. But it's a really, really pretty decoration for someone who likes flowers. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much if you've managed to make it to the end of this video, and I'll see you again soon. Take care now.